another one.
So this one says, F my life. I just got off a technical interview and I bombed pretty badly. I actually had 2 technical interviews this week. One where I thought I did pretty well. The other was today and I absolutely bombed. This interview was pretty early start as well, but honestly, I wasn't in the correct mindset. I just lost my dad to cancer and we had his funeral last week, and I haven't prepared myself for this interview. Okay, this took a dark turn. I was not expecting that one. Should probably read these questions before I pick them. Anyways, but I thought my years of QA experience should have prepared me already. Well, that's a mistake. But some questions for some reason tripped me up. What's the So I guess he's getting into some questions. What's the most important key metric while testing? I froze on this one, then said the number of bugs. Then he asked, what's a good number of bugs, 1,000 or 1? I just said the bug density is important to measure the quality of the code, but that number is determined by the overall team. All right. Then he gets to the next one. How did you design your test regression suite in your last company? I just said I would use a requirement traceability checklist, and then for some reason I just went over exactly my regression checklist of what I did for my last company. All right, so we'll read through this and come back to them. How would you test a bank system? I don't even remember what I said on this one. Something about checking balances and charges. I feel like poop right now. Okay. All right. So, well, I guess we should start off with I am very sorry for your loss. Yeah, very sorry for your loss. That's very sad to hear. Okay. So, but here's a problem, right? And I made the same mistake earlier on this year, right? And what was that mistake, right? So, the mistake was that I've been doing QA for a very long time, right? So, I get off one job and now I'm going to interview and just, I just thought like, oh, I can answer any QA question. But it's not about answering the QA question. It's about preparing for the interview. So interviewing is an art, right? It's an art. You don't just go in there and you just answer questions. It's how you answer the question. It's the tone that you take. It's the confidence that you show, right? It's being able to think quick on your feet. That is a very important part. Like I just thought about this right now, right? That's a very important part of interviewing, right? Because if they can sense that you're stuck, but you're able to handle the question well, even if you don't have the exact answer, but you're able to handle it well, that is points in your bucket, right? You score some points because the creativity, the critical thinking skills, the way that you maneuver, the way that you communicate, all of those matter for whatever position that you're doing, right? So going in there, thinking that your years of QA experience is preparation is absolutely false. Your years of QA experience have absolutely nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with it. Being able to interview and communicate, that's the most important part, right? How do you communicate? What's your body language like? What type of questions do you ask? Which I will be creating a Patreon video of what type of questions should I ask in an interview. A lot of times people ask terrible questions or they don't have any questions. They don't come prepared. But there are some strategic questions that you can ask that will have you stand out above all of the other interviewers or interviewees, right? Those are questions to ask. So let's look at these questions, right? So the questions trip you up. What is the most important key metric while testing? So you said the number of bugs is the most important key metric. Why? While testing, the number of bugs is the most important key metric? I think the number of bugs is useful, but not while testing. Because if you have 1,000 bugs or one bug, so 1,000 bugs just tells me that the development is just done very poorly. If you have one bug, it could mean a couple of things. It could mean that the development is done really well, or you're a very poor tester. Like it just depends. Like those numbers don't really mean much to me, right? And it also depends. Like I don't while testing, how can you like having a lot of bugs while testing? How big is the story that you're testing, right? So there's just that question is the answer to that question is tricky, right? Because we will look at the bugs, but that's like afterwards. Like how many bugs do I have open altogether, right? How many bugs did we find during during testing, but while testing, that doesn't matter to me as much. See, what do I look for when I'm testing, right? I'll look at so while testing, while I'm testing something, I would look at the scenarios, right? I would look for the different variations of test data that I could use. So I can actually capture all the testing scenarios, right? I think to me that's the metric I'd look for. How many test scenarios or how many test variations can I create based on the acceptance criteria, right? So I look at the acceptance criteria. I'd look at the variations. So let's say, for example, we're testing an API, right? Would be more important to me the number of bugs that I can find or the number of tests that I can execute to validate that the software is working properly. Because what if I find one bug, but I've comprehensively tested everything to make sure that we're validating like everything is being captured. What's more important to me? That one bug that I found? Or the let's say we have like 100 variations that we can run through, right? We automate it, it's going through all the different tests, and we don't find any issues. So is it bad that there was maybe zero bugs or one bug? Do we have bad metrics? Or is it more important that I was able to catch or that I was able to confirm that in all these different scenarios, all these different variations, that is working as expected? So if that was a question for me, I think I'd go with that. And guess what? I just thought about it on the fly, right? It's a very good question though. But I wouldn't care about the like while testing, I wouldn't care about the bugs, right? Now, after the fact, on a managerial level, on a team level, I say, all right, we have this many bugs that are open, or in like during a sprint retrospective, right? Oh, like we found 10 bugs working on this story. Like we need to work on working together like earlier on so we can reduce the amount of bugs that we find while testing, right? Because there shouldn't be that many bugs coming out of development. If there are, we're not doing something right. But from a testing perspective, I want to focus on how can I make sure that I'm capturing all the variations of tests when I'm testing. That's the metrics that I'm looking for, right? So how did you design your test regression suite in your last company? Um, Using the requirement traceability checklist sounds very ISTQB-ish to me. Um, but then you went over your exact regression checklist. What I would answer, like I don't know if you do automation, but I would answer how I built my automation regression suite and the ability to have other people run it, to have other people run it on their either local machines or run it on a branch. right? Um, when to run which regression suites, right? Which might be like part of your checklist, but I don't think the answer was too bad. How do you test the banking system? Something about checking balances and charges. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think we were prepared. I think that it is very important to do interview preparation, right? You got to do mock interviews. You got to do interview prep. Just being able to answer questions that is not going to help, right? So yeah, I mean, if you did poorly, I mean, you never know. You might still get the offer anyways. To be honest with you, sometimes we think that we did terribly in interviews, but it's not necessarily the case. It's just and some of the ones that we think that we did great in, that's the ones that we get denied for. So I wouldn't put too much weight on it. Um, but I would say don't rely on your experience and history to think you're going to perform well in interviews. Interviewing is an art. It is totally different from the real, like working in the real world, because you need to know how to perform, right? It's a performance. You're a salesperson in an interview, right? You're a salesperson. You need to market yourself. You need to show why you are the most qualified for the position. All right. So, and hide this for a second. Shout out to Brunel. Thank you very, very much. And I will do my best. All right. So let's go to our next question. Oh, I didn't close this. So let's finish this one out.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.